Welcome to the Workbench After Hours podcast. My name is Keith, and I'm your host. This is where we talk about the firearms community, shop talk, and everyday life experiences. Welcome to episode 68, the Workbench After Hours podcast. Chris and I here with you today. We're going to talk a little bit about guns. Surprise there. But I've been hearing a lot of people say it's too easy to buy guns.
Too easy.
So we're going to talk about that. Is it too easy? What process you go through and such. So big debate.
Yeah.
Anyway, before we get to that, what do we got, Chris?
We have Belle Meade bourbon. We don't know if it's Bella or Belle.
I want to say Belle. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe they should put a little like asterisk above the E.
If we're wrong, we could voice over everything like we did.
No, thank you. So it is a sour mash whiskey, straight bourbon. They say it's aged from 6 to 8 years, but it has never been chilled filtered at a 90.4 proof. It's like, how did they get that exact 90.4? Why that number?
Right.
And it's higher in rye, so I'm expecting a lot of spices. Mm-hmm. And it says it reaches the sweet spot. So we'll see about that.
See what that is.
Yeah. So I guess this is a pre-prohibition. They used to have a distillery, and then they stopped for a little bit. And then I guess the grandson of Charles Nelson picked it back up and started making whiskey. So
Always good for that.
yeah. It's a fancy bottle, though. At least the top was.
Yeah, I bought this a while ago, so I don't remember the cost, but I know it wasn't that
expensive.
That's why I picked it up.
Yeah, I've been watching a bunch of like cheap whiskeys under $25. Let's compare.
All right. Let's see what we get on the nose. Definitely caramel. Like that's the first thing I get.
Yeah, like instant.
You get caramel, notes of vanilla, and then you get the spice.
Yeah.
On your nose too. And they say we are supposed to get nose maple syrup, caramel with floral fragrances and a citrus zest.
I get a little floral, but it's mostly like spice floral.
Yeah. I'm not getting any citrus though.
Mm-mm.
On the palate, caramel vanilla with bold rice spice and hits of apricot. That's different.
Yeah.
Huh. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
There's spice throughout the whole thing. A lot of spice.
Definitely get the caramel. A lot of that.
Vanilla. Like you pick that up.
Mm-hmm. Starting to get that vanilla too. Spice is like there the whole time.
Yep. Start to finish.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm getting any of that apricot, but yeah, the finish, long, smooth finish with mellow cherry. Maybe that's why I'm not liking the very finish of this, because I don't like cherries.
You know what? It does have that cherry taste to it.
Mellow cherry and plum notes accented by cinnamon. All without the burn found in other 90 proof bourbons. I don't know about that one.
I don't know about that one. I don't trust that.
Yeah,
it definitely burns. I'm getting that warm, fuzzy feeling in the chest. Even letting it sit on the palate.
You know, second time around, I'm getting the cinnamon.
I let it sit on the palate for a good minute before I just let it go down.
I'm going to tell you, I'm not a fan of this one neat. I'm starting to get, I could get that cherry, maybe that plum.
I get the cherry.
Definitely getting the cinnamon, and I'm not a fan of it.
I'm not getting a lot of cinnamon in mine.
No?
No. I could get a little hint of it, but it's not like predominant. But there is spice from beginning throughout. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Well, it's also a rye too, so rye's gonna have a lot of spice.
So far, it's not my favorite of the ones we've had recently. I can tell you that it's
different, but maybe it'll taste better on the rocks, right?
Well, we'll see. Well, while Chris does that, we're gonna talk about the gun of the week, which I don't have.
What?
But Glock came out with a new model. It's actually not a new model, but they came out with one that is now available in the U.S., and that is the Glock 28. What is the Glock 28, you say? And that's why it's you see the model number being a 28 and not like a upper 40s
Yeah.
where they're on now with their patents. So when I saw that, I'm like, that's interesting. Why is it so low? It's because our stupid Gun Control Act of 1968 had some parameters that this particular pistol didn't meet and couldn't be imported. So the Glock 28 has been out almost as long as the 26 and 27. Maybe came out a little sooner or later after that, but we have not been able to get it in the country because of those stupid import laws. But because now we have a USA Glock out of Georgia, they can manufacture it in the States.
Thank you to the South.
Yes. So what is the Glock 28? It is a 380 auto. Yeah, it's
excited until I saw 380.
I know. It is the exact same size as the Glock 26 and 27. It's just a 380. And so it's slightly lighter. And you can actually put the slide on, change the slide from the 26 to the 28. I don't know if it'll actually function because there's some differences on the internals, but that just goes to show you that
that's how close they are.
Yeah, they are pretty close. It's nice that we can get it here, but I think it's late to the game.
Yeah.
There are so many other, if you do choose to go with the 380s, there's so many other options out there now that are better, like the Security 380 that we had on, and I have some videos on. That one's a great gun. You have Smith & Wesson has a bunch of different ones, like the EZ for somebody that has trouble shooting. Glock 26 is also starting to get phased out because you can get like the Hellcat or Hellcat Pro.
Yeah.
It's thinner, not as boxy, holds more rounds. And so it being the same size as the 26, smaller round, it still only holds 10.
10 plus 1.
Mm-hmm. So I don't see the point of it now. Maybe prior to all these new guns coming out that were flooding the subcompact market, maybe releasing it back then, which they couldn't, but I don't know. I just don't see it being a huge seller.
Yeah, not with a 380 round.
No, because it's like if you get that, you can get that same size gun in a 9.
Yeah.
Or even the 27, which is a 40 caliber.
Yeah. I don't know. There's so many 380s. Plus, I don't know. 380 seems like a finicky round to me.
Yes.
So.
Yes. And this is not like this is a Talo exclusive. So my supplier and most FFL suppliers, Lipsies, does like exclusives. So maybe you'll see like a gun come out with a different Cerakote that's a Lipsies exclusive, or even a Talo exclusive. They'll have like different sights or grips or something like that. So Talo is actually the one that is going to be making these or distributing them to Lipsies. So maybe a limited run. I don't know. I guess they're going to see how many sell and go from there.
See how popular it is before they make a bunch.
Yeah. So this will be a Talo exclusive if you see that. So not directly from Glock itself. So I don't know. I mean, let me see if I can actually share my screen. So this is it. Let me get rid of that. So this is it. Glock 28.
Looks like a Glock.
Looks like a 26, 27. I forgot what the 45 caliber version of this size is. But yeah, nothing special. It looks like the Gen 3.
Yeah.
Because you got the
finger
grooves. You don't have any front slide serrations. So basically a Gen 3 380.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, hey, if you want
whatever
that,
floats your boat,
yeah.
right?
It's just at this point you can get something that's slightly smaller with more that holds more rounds.
Yeah.
And a Glock, it's still probably going to be around $500 some for it.
Oh, I'm sure.
The Security 380 you get for way less than that.
Yeah.
So,
there's a lot of 380 guns that are probably well under $300 that hold just as much.
Yeah. So what do you think of this on the rocks?
It calmed it down a little bit, but that's still, I don't know. Not my cup of tea, I'd say.
I picked this bottle because last week when Joe was on, I'm like, all right, Joe, Chris and I can't decide on a bottle pick, and he saw this, and he's like, "Oh, I've had that. I really like it." I'm like, "Okay, we'll try that next time," because we had the 1910 that we wanted, right?
Yeah,
We had-
Forester. Yep.
I'm not the biggest fan of this.
I mean, it mellows it out a lot, but it just, I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe we just had too good of whiskeys lately.
I don't know. There's just something about it I'm not a fan of. I can't pinpoint it.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's on the front end.
Like I'm a fan of ryes. Like I don't have any problems with rye. I think I'm getting too much of the fruit.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe on the back end, like
cherry.
Maybe that's why I don't like it. I don't know. So we'll put this one on the list of not the favorites, which is pretty small.
Yeah. I mean, it'd probably be a good mixer.
Yeah. God, yeah. The more I drink it, the more I just not a fan.
Yeah.
Hey, if you like this, more power to you. Everybody's got different taste buds.
Yep.
I'm just not.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
I'm not feeling it. Dang it. Oh, well, we'll suffer through it.
Yep.
So, Chris, honest question. Do you think it is too easy to buy guns?
No, I really don't think it is.
Okay. And why not?
Just because you got to have, if you move a lot, you got to have everything, all your ducks in a row to get it.
Like move at addresses?
Like moving addresses or even moving from state to state.
Okay.
Because I remember when I went to go purchase one of my guns, I just moved back to Kansas. So my permanent address was still at my mom and dad's house.
Okay.
And I put down my new address that I own now, and they're like, we can't sell you this unless you have another proof showing that you live there. Thank God I had my car registration in the car, so I use that. But if you don't have that, like some people don't even carry that in their car. So like showing proof of your address, like if you don't know anything and you just go there and you're someone that moves all the time, like every year, if your address is constantly changing, it's going to be a struggle for you.
And most of that has to do with buying a pistol.
Yeah.
Because you can only sell to a resident of that state if you're licensed in that. So I'm only licensed in Kansas, so I can only sell pistols or transfer pistols to other Kansas residents. So if you recently moved, still have your, say, Virginia driver's license,
Yeah.
I can't sell it to you because it still says you live in Virginia unless you have another government document that states your current address. Then at that point it is. I think that's just because of that whole the pistols, which is so stupid that you have to do that.
Yeah.
Like rifle, shotgun,
It doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter. I can sell to whatever resident at that point if they're, they come here.
Yeah, I think just if you don't know anything and you just go buy one, and let's say you do move a lot, you'd be screwed and be like, why can't I get it? And you'd probably get frustrated. Like I watched a video when everyone was talking about how easy it was. Lady was like, well, I'm going to show you how easy it is. Took her 3 tries to go actually get the gun and everything because ID didn't match. And then her registration didn't match her ID. And she had to go and actually get her driver's license changed to show her current address. And she's just like, it's a bigger pain in the butt trying to do all this. She thought it was just pay your money and get it. Like,
That's what most Democrats think it is.
Yeah, that's what they think. But once they actually go and do it, they're like, oh, there is some very specific things you got to meet and do. So,
yes. So as of right now, currently, if you don't know, to buy a gun in majority of the states, there's some other states with different things that you have to go through. We'll talk about slightly, but this is for majority of the states, unlike California, New Jersey, stuff like that, New York.
yeah.
Illinois, you go through some different stuff, but for the mostly free states like Kansas that we live in, what you do is you go to a gun shop and you fill out what's called the Form 4473. And basically it has everything that is on your driver's license you put on the form. And then that's why it has to match, because when we go and put that in through the background check system, it says, does the driver's license or state ID or whatever you use match what you put on the form? If it doesn't match, you can't proceed. Everything has to match. So your name has to match, however it is on the ID.
Yep.
Your address has to, be the same. Even if, you're out of state and buying a rifle, you still need to put your address that's listed on the driver's license as your address.
I think that's another thing. Like she had troubles with. She got married too, so her name didn't match.
Yep.
So that was just a fiasco.
Well, and that's an issue too, because then it's like, okay, well, are you really this person that you're saying you are, or are you the one on the driver's license? And it's trying to make sure you are who you are.
Yep.
Buying that gun. So then, they've changed the forms. They came out with a recent one that I've started using that we talked about quite a while ago, where it adds more stuff. But on the form, on the front now is the gun, which you're getting. Then you put your basic information. You put your, that you're a citizen, or if not. And then there's a bunch of questions that you got to answer.
Yeah.
Yes or no. And most of them have to do with felonies and stuff like that. So if you are a listed felon, you typically cannot own a gun.
Yep.
It will pop up in the background check. So as long, and you can lie on the form, sure.
Yeah, but you can also be prosecuted for lying too.
Technically, you're supposed to be prosecuted for up to $250,000 and up to 10 years in jail. I think they upped it to 12, or they upped the fee or something. They upped something on this new form. So, you list out that form, get all the information, and then the dealer does a background check through what's called the NICS Easy system, and that is the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, short for NICS. So it was created by the Brady Handgun Violence Protection Act, or Brady Law. So you sometimes hear that Brady Law thrown around every now and then. So this was brought in 93 to prevent firearm sales to people prohibited under that act of owning a gun. And it was actually launched by the FBI in 98. You do the background check. As long as you pass, it comes back as a proceed.
You're good.
You're good to go. Take the gun home. If it comes back as a delayed, that's another option. Maybe you have a common name, or there's some other reasons that they have to do a little bit more digging into your background, then you can't take the gun home at that point. There is a Brady Law date that says, if within, I think, 3 business days, if a background check doesn't come back as proceed or deny, it's up to the dealer to then, they do have the option to transfer you to the gun. You come back up, you sign the paperwork, re-sign it, redate it for that date, and then, you take the gun, and then later on at some point we'll get an answer from the background NICS system saying either proceed or deny. Proceed's awesome. You just mark that date, file the paperwork away. If it comes back as deny, as a dealer, you legally have that option to give it to transfer that person, so you don't actually get in trouble or anything. It's then up to the ATF to go pursue that gun from that person.
Which I can see that changing.
Yeah. Some dealers are absolutely, hey, we're not going to transfer this to you until we get the go ahead.
I would feel more comfortable doing that if I was in that position.
Yeah. For me as a smaller, at-home business, I have several repeat customers that I know are going to get delayed, and I know that usually comes back as proceed. So in that instance, but if it's somebody I don't know, somebody that may seem a little sketchy, maybe too eager to buy that gun, I don't know. I might
wait until that proceeds.
They'll be like, hey, did that come back yet? No, still waiting.
Yeah.
But usually you get it within that time frame. There's been some instances where it doesn't come back at all, and then I have to resubmit it. But that's few and far between. So that's what you do. You fill out a form, do a background check, and as long as you pass, take the gun home. Some states have a what they call a cool down period, or a waiting period. There is not a waiting period that's outlined by the feds, but some states have their own, which I think is bullshit, because if it's like you have a guy's hunting trip and say something happened to the gun that you're going to use, and instead of just going and getting a new one and heading out, now you got to wait 3 days. Well, I'll be back from the hunting trip at that point. That kind of sucks.
Yeah, that would really suck.
Yeah.
I guess that's why you buy multiple, so you have backup.
Mm-hmm. Right. So that's in a nutshell the process.
Yeah, that, and I know a lot of people with the common names usually are always delayed.
Yes. And that's why on the form it does give you an option to put your social security number.
Yeah.
Some people are not so wanting to put that on there, but I'm like, if you want to make sure that there's no hiccups to where you get delayed, this will help identify you in the system a lot better than without.
Yeah.
Because somebody could have that same name, close date of birth or something like that, and then all of a sudden you're getting delayed. So the whole background check thing was a coordinated effort created by the background check system. It didn't actually come about until after the assassination attempt of Ronald Reagan in March of 81. So that was actually something I didn't know. And then the White House press secretary at the time was James Brady. He was seriously wounded in the attack, and his wife was the one that pushed the Brady Handgun Violence Protection Act in 93, which then became the Brady Law and was later on launched by the FBI in 98. So that was kind of I never knew where that Brady law came from or how they started doing
that. It was a Tom Brady law that he just wanted it, so he got it type deal, you know?
Right. I think it'd be the TB12 law at that point. So that was a factoid there for you. And then, so under the NICS system, FFL dealers are required to undertake the background checks on potential buyers before transferring your firearm. Like I've said, it is not a gun registry. And I have confirmed this with an actual ATF agent that the information we put in the background check system does not get saved. Unless it's a denial, then they keep record of that. But as long as it's a proceed, the system actually clears. And whatever information I put on your background check goes away. And so there's no registry. That's one question I asked him. I remember, I'm like, well, we're putting all this information in there. Is this technically a registry somehow? And he's like, no, that information gets deleted. And we rely on you as the FFL with the form 4473. In case anything happens and we need to do a trace, you have that form. Otherwise, there's no record of that gun being purchased. Now, when you put in the background check information in the NICS system, you put obviously everything that's on your driver's license, name, address, date of birth, height, weight, social security number. If you're a citizen, sometimes if you have a UPIN, you put that in. And then basically that's it. Whether you're buying a pistol, handgun, or shotgun, or a frame, but I never put what actual gun you're buying in the background check system. So it's not like I'm putting, oh, well, Chris is buying a Glock 28. Here's the serial number and all that.
Yeah.
Nope. The only thing I put is if you're buying a pistol, shotgun, rifle,
or other.
Or other. And that's basically to confirm that you're old enough to purchase that. So if you're 18, you can't buy the handgun or have it transferred. So, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize how in-depth it is. That's why I keep hearing, when they keep saying, like, we need to do more extensive background checks. Like, how more you want to get into this? Like, I mean, I think that's pretty good, especially if you're putting your social. Your social's attached to it.
Yeah.
It brings up everything about you pretty much.
Yeah. And so what this does, the background check, is basically prevents a prohibited person from obtaining a firearm. And a prohibited person, by definition, is someone who's been convicted in any court of a crime punishable by imprisonment for a term exceeding 1 year, or under indictment for a crime punishable by imprisonment for a term exceeding 1 year, or a fugitive from justice, or who is an alien or illegally, unlawfully in the U.S., some other stuff, an unlawful user of or addicted to any controlled substance. That's up to,
Yeah.
has been adjudicated as a mental defective or committed to a mental institution, has been discharged from the U.S. Armed Forces under dishonorable conditions, having been a citizen of the U.S. and renounced your citizenship, or are subject to a court order that restrains the person from harassing, stalking, or threatening an intimate partner or your child, or if you've been convicted of a misdemeanor in a crime of domestic violence.
Yep.
So if you meet any of those qualifications, you are a prohibited person and cannot
legally own a gun.
Own a gun. So if they run a background check on you, even if you were to lie on the form and mark no to all of those, you're still going to be in the FBI system. That'll come back, and then you'll just get denied. Now, when a denial comes back, it doesn't say why.
It just says denied.
Yeah, it just says denied.
So it's probably because of one of those.
Yeah. So if you ever get denied, your gun dealer is not going to know why.
Yeah.
There's a process you can go through to fight that, and sometimes you get denied by mistake. I've had it happen to several customers, and there's an appeal process you have to go through, and then you end up getting like a certain PIN number that you give the FFL to enter moving forward. But sometimes people's identity gets stolen or something happens by mistake, because we all know the government's not perfect, obviously. So there are mistakes. So there are some rare occasions where you may get denied, even if you don't have any of those issues being a prohibited person. Again, your gun dealer's not going to know. They're going to hand you a pamphlet saying, here's your options moving forward. But I can't sell you the gun.
Sorry.
Yes. But I mean, again, here's the main thing. Say somebody does this, passes the background check because they haven't had any of those things yet or anything pop up, and then something happens and they decide to go on a crime spree or do a mass shooting.
Yeah.
Bought the gun legally.
Yeah.
Was that too easy of a process?
I mean, there's no symptoms of any of that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard. Like, especially the mental health aspect of it. Like, maybe someone doesn't want help and they just want to go cause harm. So guess what they're going to do?
Yep.
I mean, I know it says you can be convinced if you lied on it, if you're not mentally stable or any of the answer to that. But if you're wanting to cause harm and at the end of it, you know you're going to die, what are we going to do? Can't stop it.
Mm-hmm.
The only way to stop it is if then you start going after the family and see if the family knew. But
yeah, that whole thing, especially with the red flag laws, and
yeah,
we are talking about, we've mentioned this a lot. It's not the guns that are doing this. It's
the person.
The person, and maybe there is a mental health crisis. But when you get into putting somebody, their mental health on a background check to flag it, I mean, where do you draw the line? What's considered that? Like somebody with ADD or somebody that has
it says anything in a
super
mental
anxiety?
institution or mental defective. Like what is mental defective or committed?
So, authorized state, local, and federal agencies can update the NICS data by electronically batch files, or they also receive calls, often in emergency situations, from mental health care providers, police departments, and family members requesting placement of individuals into the NICS index.
Well, obviously that hasn't happened.
Yeah.
Because look at all the kids that have gone and caused harm that, hey, cops known about it, parents have known about it, and nothing's happened.
And you can't just call and say, hey, put this on the background. You have to have documentation justifying the entry of that into the NICS system before it originates to the agencies.
People aren't doing their job pretty much when it comes to some of that, which that could be crazy if you think about it. If parents actually, if they lost their child from a mass shooting or whatnot, and they go back and read that and find out, hey, this person, the parents knew, the local police department did. Why wasn't it flagged when they went to buy this gun? Couldn't they go back and then sue them because they knew about it and nothing was done? They didn't do the proper paperwork to make sure that they couldn't purchase it. Technically.
Right. They consume for everything else.
Yeah, I know. So why, that would be, I mean, shoot, kids these days, parents get in trouble if the kids throw a party and they're underage. So what's the difference?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. And then there are other states that do their own background check. That's when you get into some of those not so friendly states. The state actually becomes the point of contact between the FFL dealers and the NICS system. So few partial point of contact sales run through them with handgun checks, and then the FBI does the long gun checks. Luckily, most states, we just do the FBI one from here. But yeah, there's other states that, aren't so gun friendly that we've mentioned that do their own thing and do make it harder to buy a gun. Some of them you have to have that FOID card, get fingerprinted and all that stuff. One other thing when you are buying a gun is if you have a state issued concealed carry license, you don't have to do the background check. And a lot of people are like, well, why? Well, because in order to get that concealed carry license, which is only good for 3 years, if you let it expire, then you can't use that. Then you have to go through the background check. But say you keep your concealed carry active, you go buy a gun, you still have to fill out the paperwork. You still fill out that form 4473. But instead of me doing a background check through the NICS system, I just mark that you had a CCL license. Here's your number on the license. I put it down there and you're good to go. You just use that. Because in order to get your concealed carry license, you go through a much more in-depth background check with your local
law enforcement.
Yeah, law enforcement. Because when I did it, we had to not only take a training course through an authorized place to get a certificate to then get the license. You go up to with us as the county sheriff, we go up there, fill out some kind of more in-depth paperwork where they do the background stuff. You also get your fingerprints done. So you're in the system and all that. So, and then you got to wait and wait for everything to pass before you get issued your CCL. So actually having to do that way, that's more of an extensive background.
Yeah.
And that's why you're not required to do another background because you've already been through it, more an extensive one. So they know most people that have applied and have a CCL aren't going to be the ones going out there doing the crime. They're going to be the ones helping stop the crime.
Yeah. I actually saw, I don't remember where I was. I was at one of the big box stores and they told the guy no. And he had a CCL.
Was it from that state?
Yeah. And he was throwing a fit about it, which I was like, what? Here's a CCL. Give him his gun.
Right.
And they're like, nope, we can't. Sorry. It came back as pending. I was like, what?
So why did they run the background?
Yeah, that's what I said. I was
anyway?
like, he's got a CCL. Fucking.
Man, a lot of those box stores,
I don't know if it's maybe someone didn't have the right training or what. Because my buddy even asked me about it too. Because he ran into the same situation at one of these other big box stores too. And he's like, man, this dude was throwing a fit. He had a CCL and they wouldn't give him his gun. I was like, what? And I'm like, yeah.
Maybe just to protect themselves, they still run background checks on everybody, even if you have a CCL.
I remember the first time I bought a gun, I bought it at Cabela's. And they're like, do you have a CCL? And I was like, no. They're like, you're going to be here for an hour.
Yep.
And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, you got to wait. And he came back and like 10 minutes later, he goes, I don't know why you came back so quick, but here you go. And gave me the gun. Everywhere I've gone, they've said that.
Probably because you were in the military.
Yeah.
It's a little bit easier. If you have a concealed carry license in Kansas, you can't go to Missouri and use it over there. You
still got to do it in your state.
Yeah. So even if you were to go to Missouri to buy a rifle, you can over there, you would not be able to use your CCL because it's not for that state you're buying in. So,
but they do recognize our laws.
They do, but on the form it states that it has to be from that state that you're licensed in. So, yeah, you can't go to Missouri, use your CCL to buy a gun over there from Kansas, and vice versa. You can only use that concealed carry license to forego the background check in that state that you have that license in. Now, with that, they recognize our concealed carry license. That means you can carry over to that state with that license and not have to, do anything different. But as far as buying a gun, you can't use that.
Interesting.
Yeah. I've had people that recently moved and like, oh yeah, I have my concealed carry from, say Virginia. I'm like, well, I can't use that because it's not the state of Kansas. You have to have one from the state of Kansas.
I wonder I don't know, that'd be weird. Like, how you can transfer your driver's license from state to state when you move? Can you do that with your CCL, or would you have to go through the same process, go back through the training course, get fingerprinted, or do you think they just go there, show them that, hey, I've got my CCL from this state, and then they just, fill out this paperwork and then let them proceed?
That I don't know.
That'd be a good question to ask.
Yeah, I don't know if it's each state has a different way or something.
I know, like the CCL is recognized by 32 different states,
right?
Supposedly. So I wonder if it's transferable. Like, let's say I move from Virginia to Kansas or vice versa, whatnot. And I wonder how that would work.
I don't think it is, which is why most people don't ever renew theirs to the new state that they move into. Because I think it has to do with the law enforcement from that state wanting to approve you.
That'd be a good question to ask a sheriff.
Yeah.
Or ask, I don't know.
Because, I mean, you could technically, because you have that certificate showing you completed the training course.
Yeah.
So maybe, if you do move, contact the sheriffs and be like, hey, I have this concealed carry from whatever
Virginia,
state.
whatever.
What do I need to get it to
Over
Kansas?
here. Yeah.
They'll let you know.
That'd be a good question.
There you go.
I might call him tomorrow.
I've never moved states, so I've always lived in Kansas.
Yeah. I don't know, because I know back in Virginia, I was stupid. I should have got my CCL there when I was in the service because, like they said, just go to the courthouse, show them, and they'd pay $50 and you get your concealed carry.
Mm-hmm.
Like you already had your weapons training through military. So I was like, fuck, if I was in guns back then, I could have just done that.
Yep. But, it's because I was talking to somebody this weekend about guns and stuff, and, they mentioned that it's too easy to buy guns. So it depends on what side you're coming from, because I see both sides, but if you talk to one side, they say, yes, it's too easy to buy guns, and then the other side's, no, it's not too easy.
I think a lot of people, too, that say, oh, it's easy, they've never gone and tried to purchase a gun.
And don't understand the fact that just because you bought a gun legally and didn't have any background issues doesn't mean you could change your mind. And like this recent shooting, that person bought the guns legally. Yeah. Nothing was flagged. That should have been flagged. So there's a disconnect communication there that needs to be fixed by the government, which instead of making universal background checks and making it harder, actually, if somebody that's having these mental problems and there's a doctor that says you shouldn't have guns, well, maybe put that in the system somehow so it doesn't get overlooked to prevent that from happening.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But again, you can't stop somebody from
causing harm.
Yeah. They may have never done it and stayed low key and finally become age. And they're like, oh, well, I'm going to.
It's like that story that I read today. They were talking about the biggest mass killing in schools in America was not done by any guns. It was like in 1945. It was actually done by a council member of this city. He was mad that they opened up this new school. He was all against it and got really crazy. He owned a farm. He killed his wife and his 2 horses on his farm. Then he planted dynamite underneath the school. It blew up one of the wings of the school, killing everybody. And the other one they found out later had a short in the circuit. He didn't wire it and have a good connection.
Yeah.
And they were set on like old school alarm bells. So when it goes off, it would blow up the school, but it didn't. But he wasn't happy that they went against his ruling and was all disgruntled about it. And
damn.
But the biggest.
So you're telling me
the biggest
he didn't
mass
use one of those
killing
black
in schools?
assault weapons?
No,
man,
those assault weapons weren't even around then. They had things that went boom. And you gotta think. I think. See, this is another thing. Previous generations, they were more involved with like everything they did. Like, look at cars. Back then, they had in the manuals how to adjust timing and stuff like that. Like, how many people would know how to do that right now? A handful.
There was a time that you had to learn how to take care of your car.
Yeah, take care of your car, wire your house. Like, back then, everything, all the skill trades everyone had them.
Well, that's what YouTube's for now, right?
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, I saw that article today and I was like, because first thing it popped up, biggest mass killing in school history didn't involve guns. I was like, what? What are you talking about?
Guess what story is never going to make mainstream media?
And that's what it even brought that up. It's like you hear about Columbine and all this, and they killed like 13 people, but it's like this one has never surfaced, and they brought it to light. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting.
Right.
And I read the whole thing.
And I just saw that recently. San Francisco, very, very anti-gun. It's hard to have a gun there. The CEO and actually founder of the Cash App was stabbed to death.
Crazy.
If he would have been able to
carry legally, he could have prevented that.
Mm-hmm. But nope.
Yeah, it's hard in that state. I remember a lot of people that were moving, like when I got moved coast to coast or whatnot, a lot of people were bitching about the gun laws. And I was like, I didn't quite understand back then what they were talking about. I knew California was strict, but I was used to Virginia, open carry, concealed carry. It didn't freaking matter there.
Yeah. So that just another point that if you want to do harm, you don't need a gun.
Yeah.
There's other means.
Ways. Yeah, and I was like, I was thinking like, oh, school is probably gonna be stabbing, is what I thought, since they said no guns. That was the first thing that came to mind.
Nope.
Then I read it, and it was like dynamite. Wow. Dang.
Yep.
That was crazy. But they're like, yeah, he was a little bit of a hothead, and they think he had brain injuries prior to the war or due to the war, and that's what caused him to be that way.
Gotcha.
But I was just like, Jesus.
Well,
If there's a will, there's a way. And that just showed you why.
Yep. So would you change anything about the gun buying process if you could?
The other thing, and I brought this up several times about the flagging if they had mental health
Other than
issues.
that,
I wouldn't. I mean, I think it's pretty good. I know another party said that illegal or aliens should be able to buy guns, which I don't agree with.
Right.
Because they're trying to prohibit gun buying, but why do you want illegals to have it? That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
But I think it's fine. I mean,
would you change? Do you think if we changed, because right now, 18 years old, you can buy rifle, shotgun.
I think you should be able to buy a pistol at 18, to be honest.
And you don't think that would change the amount of shootings that you see?
I think it would prevent some of them, like at high schools and things.
That would only...
Because colleges now, you're allowed to carry.
Some.
No, all nationwide, you're allowed to carry, I'm pretty sure, at any college, unless you're in one of these not so friendly states. But I know here in Kansas, you're allowed to conceal carry. Thing is, you can't, it's got to be on your possession the entire time. So if, let's say you do a lab or something, it can't be in your backpack. It has to be on you and in your possession. And they always say, hey, raise your hand if you got to conceal, if you're concealed carrying. Like, who the fuck in the right mind is going to tell you, yeah, I'm concealed carrying?
Right.
Like, that defeats the purpose. I always laughed when my teacher said, oh, who's in here concealed carrying? I was like, who the fuck? Why would I tell you that?
I don't think I was ever asked that. We went to the same school at the same time.
Yeah.
Huh. But so, okay.
I was like, the only reason I think
going back to high school. So, because most of these happen high school or grade schools. How do you think, or why do you think that letting an 18-year-old buy a handgun is going to prevent
I also think
because high schools won't let you carry.
I'm also a firm believer in at 18 you can go to war for your country. So if you're allowed to go to war and you can have a lot more gun power and weaponry. You
supervised though. It's not like you just get to carry that gun around.
Yeah, I know,
base.
but still, at that age, you're still.
But you're also getting training by the military.
You are, but who's to say? Let's say you and me grew up on a farm, right? Our entire lives been around guns. Our entire lives. You're saying at 18 that person's not going to know how to use that weapon.
Yeah, I mean that's fine.
But
should they legally be able to buy a handgun at that point?
I mean, what's the biggest difference between a rifle and a handgun? Really?
According to the one side,
the rifle could do a lot more damage than a handgun.
Mm-hmm.
So you're allowing me to have a high-powered rifle over a little
handgun.
Right.
So that's why wouldn't it be better to change? Just you got to be 21 to own a gun at that point.
I don't. Then if you're going to do that, you can't have anybody draft for the military until 21. Then
it's starting to get a little old. Then
doesn't matter.
But
that's how I've always felt that way. If you're old enough to defend your country, you should be able to drink and all that. Because all these other countries overseas, they're all drinking at like 13, and like they're learning how you had to be responsible about it at that age too. Which
we don't learn here.
That's mostly cultural thing. Like, the problem is we need to have a cultural change on the way we look at guns and alcohol and things like that.
So generally, if you decide you're going to go into the military, you're not going to be one of those people that are. There's the problem with social media now is you can not only are you getting bullied at school,
yeah,
you're getting bullied on social media 24/7, so it doesn't go away. I think now, it would suck growing up as a kid now, just for that reason. I got bullied as a kid. we didn't have social media back then. So go home, you're away from it. But I think that's why you're seeing a lot more kids, going to school because they were bullied and say that they, this thing flips. So having them be able to have access to the guns earlier, I mean, you got to think about, so they could go fight for our country, sure, but you got to, like, society as a whole, the way the children are brought up are way different than they were brought up in like the 50s and 60s.
Yeah. That's a cultural thing, though.
Yeah.
I think that's a problem when you change the cultural.
Everybody's becoming woke.
Yeah. Being snowflakes, too.
Yeah.
Oh, you said something mean to me. Let me sue you for everything you got.
So everybody's getting worse like that. I mean.
How about we go out back? I put brass knuckles on. You put brass knuckles on. First one to come out wins. We're done.
So you'd probably be the same way if 21, say, just to buy like an AR style gun, you still buy a hunting shotgun or a hunting rifle. Of course, then you get the argument of
AR platform shotguns and all that.
All right, so let's just say stick with let's just say, okay, so you can buy a shotgun at 18. Anything else, you got to be 21 and above. I go back to the thing is, yes, in the military, you can be 18. You get an assault. Oh my God. I said you get an assault weapon.
Well, technically you are. You're getting a full auto.
You're getting, yes.
Technically, that's an assault rifle.
Okay. So you get, I hate saying that. Okay. So saying you're getting an M16 or whatever you're getting. But at the same time, you're being trained by the military how to use that gun, how to clean it, how to shoot it. And you're not, like I said, you have to log that in. Like you can't carry it around base or
that and like
you take it on missions and that's it, right?
Pretty much. Unless you're infantry or something like that, I'm sure they're with them 24/7.
Like military police.
Yeah.
But
even like military police, like let's say because usually you have what we call like your duty or watch. So during that watch period, if you got to have a gun, it'll be on you. But when you're off watch, you got to turn that weapon back in.
Mm-hmm.
But
so that you're kind of limited on access there too.
Yeah, a little bit. But
plus, you're not gonna join the military and then decide, oh, I'm gonna shoot up a school.
Yeah.
Or I'm gonna shoot up the military base because that's
good luck with that.
Yeah. So
that and like,
I don't know.
Like, it's weird. Like they also, I remember in boot camp we got taught proper training on how to handle a weapon. How do you check it that it's clear? You had to follow all these procedures. And that was part of your training from boot camp. So, and then you also went through and shot rifle and pistol and.
So maybe what they need to do is have proper firearms training.
I believe
in
that.
Schools.
That and also quit being so woke about this other crap and start believing in what our country was founded on, which is Christianity, and teaching Bibles and making people value life again. People don't value life like they used to. Like hunter safety course, that's the biggest thing. Like they taught us, if you're going to take that shot, are you confident you can make that shot?
Yeah.
And like, don't take it just to take it.
So maybe what if, okay, you can be 18 to keep it as is, but then maybe you have to show that you took a hunter safety course or something similar.
Yeah.
Before you're able to buy it.
Yeah. I'd be fine with that too.
And I think now on the new forms, if you are buying a gun under 18, you are going to get delayed.
Yeah.
So you're going to have that 3-day period. Whether that's going to be enough to cool off, I doubt that.
Because you got to think probably a lot of these kids that grew up on farms are probably shooting way younger.
But I mean, how many farm kids are there nowadays? It
depends where you're at, really.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of rule, but most of this stuff happens in bigger cities, towns,
suburbs.
where, yeah.
And also, too, kids used to get their ass beat for being bad. And now you get looked frowned upon, or they called Child Protective Services on you for disciplining your child. Oh, that causes mental issues. Well, obviously, I don't remember having that many mental issues back then when we were getting our asses beat. And now we have kids with so many fucking mental issues and they get away with fucking murder.
Yeah.
Literally murder. So something's got to change there.
Yeah.
You need to be able to discipline your kids. They're not there to be your friends. You're there to raise them and make them understand
Well, then also
right from wrong.
don't hand them a tablet or let them sit playing video games all day. Like,
Yeah. Well, that too, and like a lot of these video games, why are these kids playing them?
oh, like
A lot of
freaking
Call of Duty,
Call of Duty and Grand Theft Auto.
Halo.
Like Grand Theft Auto, you just go around, beat up people, shoot people,
Yeah.
steal. Like, oh, that's
Like
a great
I remember
thing to.
back in like '05, I remember writing a paper on a kid. He did a mission from Grand Theft Auto in real life because he didn't know the difference.
Yeah.
Kids need to know the difference between right and wrong.
But yeah, especially coming up because you're getting this whole metaverse thing being built, and
Yeah,
it's gonna be
people-
really hard for.
In virtual reality, a
Yeah.
lot of people are, before too long aren't going to know what's real and what's not.
Yeah, you have all these AI avatars now, and who knows, 10 years down the road, man, it's gonna be
Who's to say AI won't take over?
right. Terminator days.
Yeah, Skynet, and they're going to be giving everyone guns and assault rifles at that point to get rid of.
Well, let's see what the Simpsons predicted with AI, and
Yeah.
we'll have an answer.
I'm hoping the Simpsons were right about my cryptocurrency.
Yeah,
Then I can just ride it out and go find my own place and stay the fuck away. Have
yeah.
my own guard checks and pop up turrets and everything. Stay the F out of my way.
Exactly. Well, let us know your guys' thoughts that are listening. If you're watching on YouTube, and then comment down below if you think it's too easy or a
Yeah.
way to change some things up, but also not infringe on our Second Amendment rights. Just start the conversation.
Yeah.
Because instead of just being like, oh, ban guns, universal background checks, all this stuff, red flag laws, I think there's other avenues that we can go that benefits both sides.
Yep.
It doesn't hurt just the law-abiding citizens and gun owners and
Shoot.
all that.
I always laugh about climate control and climate change. Go look at the record books for like temperature lows and highs.
Yeah.
Look at it. A lot of them were back in the 1800s, and you think there was a lot of climate change and mining back then like we do now?
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
Climate change.
But
I see both sides.
I don't.
Well, as a insurance person, my job depends on the weather. Whew,
Yep.
I've noticed it's getting worse and worse. And then you have the huge turnover. So yeah. Anyway, another topic. Yeah, let us know in the comments down below what you guys think. And if you guys are a gun owner, definitely look into self-protection insurance like we've discussed. You just never know. If you ever have to use that in a self-protection situation, you want to be able to pick up the phone right afterwards, call an attorney who's going to walk you through the process, cover all your legal fees, potentially even replace your gun for you. So definitely something good to have, because otherwise, who do you call? The police aren't necessarily going to be on your side, even if you are in a justified shooting, and you may get sued by the family of the individual. So good thing to have. It's one of those things. Better to have it, not need it,
Yep.
than need it, not have it. They definitely have good pricing. And if you use the code below, Boomstick10, you get 10% off your monthly subscription on whatever tier you get.
Yeah.
So, yeah, check it out. We got a podcast with Perry Oath from there that goes all over it. So look that up. But yeah, I think that's it. And it's time for Chris to do his thing.
Remember, this is a YouTube podcast. Remember to like, subscribe, and tickle that bell. If you're listening on any other platforms such as Spotify or Apple Podcasts, remember to hit that follow. With that, have a good one.